From the beaches of Daytona, Florida to start this GT3 series, today we head across the Atlantic to Circuit de Barcelona, Catalonia. Known for its technical turns that link sectors together, if you fall behind on this racetrack, you will quickly get swallowed up by the competition. Tonight is round 2 of the Ignite Racing League GT3 series. My name is Ian Fisher, and I'm thrilled to be joined tonight in the booth by Joey Atterbury and Eddie Smith, working the controls as your producer. The camera angles tonight are always produced by Dougie Beard, and we're thrilled to have you join us this evening on Maconi Entertainment. Joey, why don't you go ahead and give us a brief rundown of the action we can expect here tonight from Barcelona?
You mentioned it, Ian. We are here at Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya, over across the Atlantic in Spain. Quite a different racetrack than Daytona, which was the first round of this series. This is a much more technical racetrack known for its turns rather than its long straightaways. First opened in 1991, this is actually a F1 testing track in the winter and a huge F1 FIA Grade 1 racetrack, so just the tippy top of the awesome levels of asphalt. 2.89 miles out here and 16 turns is what all of these competitors are going to be facing tonight. And looking at this track map, there's quite a few sectors here, but you mentioned it, Ian. If you fall behind just in one of these turns, it's so easy to get behind throughout the entire lap, and then you got a mirror full of your competitors out there.
Oh, and I think you hit the nail on the head here, Joey, is that there's not a lot of straightaways. You kind of mentioned it. You see here on your screen right now, you have the long, obviously, the front straightaway here for the start and finish line. But other than that, you really don't have a lot of straightaways. And you mentioned how key it is to string these sectors together to really get these turns to flow along well and not lose speed in those corners. You can't miss an apex here. You really can't afford to make up, say, maybe some time with a car that has fast straightaway speeds. You really got to hit every single apex here, or you're going to find yourself sitting at the back of the pack.
Yeah, it's quick, and yeah, you mentioned it. Just one mistake, you can definitely get swallowed up. And I know that the cars are kind of wrapping up qualifying, but we can give you a little bit more info on what we're going to see tonight in terms of the race. It's going to be 60 minutes that the competitors are going to be doing out there. Going to be having two mandatory stops, Ian, but only one of those stops you're going to have to take tires on. We'll have to see if some of that strategy comes into effect on when they take their tires early, or maybe they take their tires late to have more speed at the end. And this is an open setup and 40% fuel capacity on all of these GT3 cars to mandate those pit stops and those strategy calls.
I don't know about you, Joey, but I really like that one mandatory tire change. I think it. I don't know if I say force the drivers to be honest is really the right word, because that 40% fuel definitely does that, as well as with the open setup as well. Can't be too aggressive with your machine out here tonight, but I really like that one tire change. I think really throwing a pit stop into these races, especially if you're going to shorten down the time frame of the races as well, is really, really key. And I think it makes it really interesting as well, because like you said, it forces a whole nother strategy aspect into it here, as have about 2 minutes left in qualifying here. Jose Puig right now is your provisional pole sitter with 1:43.9 as his lap time. But you kind of mentioned it, Joey, the differences in pit strategy, and we saw it last week. Just who takes the tires on the first stop, who takes the tires on the second stop, really could actually throw a wedge here into the positions at the end of the race.
Absolutely. It can definitely throw a wedge into a lot of these competitors' varying strategies out there. And traditionally in iRacing, the lower the fuel burn you get it, the faster the car goes. But when you put new rubber on it, everything changes. And right now, to let everybody know, keep you all updated, Jose Puig right now, currently provisional P1 at a time of 1:43.9. That's a full 0.3 faster than our second place runner of Juan Salazar out there. And then pretty big, almost a full second back to the third place car. That's the 333 of Kerry Cantera. My goodness, Jose Puig looks like he's on a heater right now too.
Yeah, and Puig was hot last week as well. And, you know, one thing I will point out, Joey, with those pit strategies we talked about here a little bit, JP Alfonso was able to vault himself up from about mid-pack up to the top 3, ended up finishing the podium position last week just from those differing fuel strategies. And while we're talking about JP Alfonso, just want to take a second to shout him out. He's the title sponsor here of the GT3 series, has a tattoo shot out in Norcross, Georgia. And if you want to know more about him, Joey, you can go to www.jpalfonsostudios.com. You can take a look at the recent work and even get a booking for yourself as well. You got any tattoos, Joey?
I do not have any tattoos, but Ian, speaking of tattoos, what do you think about that Maconi Entertainment logo somewhere on you?
Uh, okay, look, Jeff, if you're listening, um, $850, and I will get the Maconi Entertainment logo tattooed on myself somewhere
You
of your
heard it
choice.
here first, everybody on Maconi Entertainment. $850, the small price. We can get a GoFundMe going for that logo on our good old Ian Fisher. And to get us back on topic, Ian. But hey, thank you very much to JP Alfonso Studios. It's great that they're out here sponsoring this series. And then also the partners of the series, Tam Livery and also Hot Rod Setups. Fantastic to have everybody on board here with this Ignite Racing League. And yeah, Ian, I think that qualifying is winding down. The checkered flag has thrown, but these cars that are still on a hot lap will have the chance to complete it.
Yeah, and we still have three drivers that have yet to complete a time. That's Daniel Ott, Connor Webb, and Donnie York right now. So they could be finishing out that hot lap. As you mentioned, you do have time to finish your lap here if you already started the lap before the checker flag fell. Jose Puig, still your provisional pole sitter. And we'll take a look at the grid here in just a second. Still about a minute and a half left here in qualifying. And, Joey, we talked about pit strategy so far. We talked about how technical this racetrack is, how the turns are going to be. But right now, if you're Jose Puig, you don't have to worry about it on the provisional pole right now and actually sitting on your pole position with a 143.9 with Juan Salazar and the Ferrari, the one machine to the outside. Kerry Cantera third in the 333, the Lamborghini. JP Alfonso, we mentioned, our sponsor here for the GT3 series in the Porsche in the 996. Alan Bros in the 941. He'll be rolling off fifth with Tyler DiVincenzo in the 97th in sixth. And going back to seven, we'll have Sebastian Morfin in the BMW. Philip Forrester in the 22 in the Porsche. Kevin Ayers in the 33. Mark Royce in the BMW will make out your top 10 here, Joey.
In 11th place, we have Eric Bergdorf. 12th, there's Arvin Sadigi, Kyle Edgar, John Barry, Justin Knapp there in 15th, Michael Farrell. And then we have a few cars that are on the grid here but did not take a time. Daniel Ott, Connor Webb, and Don York make out the complete, I believe, 19-car field for us, Ian.
Well, 19 cars, if not 19 cars, at least 16 took a time. So at least 16 that we have here tonight from Circuit de Barcelona, Catalonia here. And Joey, we talked about qualifying, how important it was. We have that wrapped up here. So obviously track position is wrapped up at least here for this first initial stint. But how important is it for these drivers to work side by side a little bit? We don't really talk about it too much here in GT3 racing. Contact really isn't quite too much of a thing. But that dive down to the turn one, especially here at Barcelona, can be quite treacherous.
It can be treacherous, and one thing that's nice about this racetrack, though, Ian, is that it's got a lot of room side to side. It can funnel up pretty quick, which we're going to see, and I'm sure we're going to see plenty of door banging and leaning on fenders, but there is enough room on the racetrack to fit these cars too wide for the most part, and I think that's one of the reasons why it provides such great racing is that you can take cars too wide or even three wide, take lunges down the inside or outside to force a car into a different position on the track, and it's really fun to watch.
And forgive me right now, I don't know what turn it is, but I do know there's a very tight left-hand turn here on the racetrack where these cars will be coming down a long straightaway and then brake all the way, probably all the way into first gear for some of these drivers. I know that's going to be a point of contention on the racetrack as well. And really here, just a lot of medium speed corners, as we mentioned, all night long, Joey. So we should see some side-by-side racing, but a lot of decisions will have to be made by these drivers. And you kind of mentioned it, a wide racing surface. But still, we do have an hour here out on the racetrack. There's going to be no full course yellows, so you really got to be smart. Any mistakes, any off tracks are really going to cost you here in the long run.
I think you're right. Staying on the racetrack will be the name of the game tonight. And even that small mistake, we mentioned it, just taking a little mistake and getting behind in one of these rhythm sections can cost you lap time. Well, If you take that one step further and put your car off track, you're getting swallowed up by the entire field as you just watch them go by, and you have to regain your rhythm out there. So yes, Ian, you got to keep the car on the racetrack if you expect to run up front here tonight.
And speaking of running up front, like we mentioned, Jose Puig, Juan Salazar, they'll lead your field here to the the green flag, excuse me, not the checker flag, quite yet. That would be quite a quick race for us here. And while these drivers go ahead and get the tires warmed up here on a pace lap, just want to give you a reminder on some of the future events here we have on Maconi Entertainment, of course, coming up November 18th. We have the Sim Racers for Mental Health Daytona 6-hour endurance event here. That's a really important one that I know I'm looking forward to, you, Joey, as well. And then we're back here again next week for the Ignite Racing League JP Alfonso GT3 series. We go to Monza next week, Joey, so that should be definitely very interesting. Actually, a very similar track to Barcelona, I will say. And then on the 26th, of course, we have the 2022 Saturday for the Boys charity event, benefiting the Movember Foundation. We're not preventing the Movember Foundation from doing anything, benefiting the Movember Foundation at Daytona. That's going to be exciting as well. The NASCAR trucks, as we go green flag racing here from Barcelona. Jose Puig will get out to an early jump here, Joey, and these drivers are going to have an hour to navigate this Barcelona circuit. We'll see how they do here on the first lap as they dive all down in the turn one.
Yeah, the leader, Jose Puig, has a commanding lead, but a little bit further back for 5th and 6th place. It is too wide through turn 1 back there, but for the most part, the whole field makes it through this little chicane of turn 1, turn 2, into the sweeping turn 3 right now. All of these GT3 cars are going to be accelerating up through the gears here. Then they're going to go hard on the brakes once again. Looking like that's the 941 of Alan Bros right now in that purple Ferrari that we're looking at on screen. He was one of the cars that was going too wide earlier and maybe a little bit too wide further back there, Ian.
Too wide a little further back, but you've kind of noticed it here, Joey. Our leaders have gone pretty much single file for about the 7th and 8th position here. I believe this is a battle here for about the 9th position. So that'd be Kevin Ayers, Mark Royce, and then John Barry right now, as we do have one car off track. I believe that's the 87 of Arvin Sandanghi, and he actually had a very good run last week, Joey. So unfortunate for him to be off this early in the Porsche, but only lap 1 here, still 58 minutes left to go. Still a lot of time here with the pit stops we have left. You actually have a little bit of road course experience yourself, as we have actually another car, one of our leaders going around, I believe.
Juan
Salazar that went around. Yeah, Joey.
Yeah, number 1 car of Juan Salazar around in one of these trickier, slower technical sections of the racetrack, really having to rely on the mechanical grip of the car rather than the aerodynamics here. Couple that with some cold tires on lap 1, and Juan Salazar went for a ride, but thankfully he's got it pointed back the right direction, resuming on track, and it doesn't look to be any damage on that Ferrari right now.
No damage on the Ferrari for sure, Joey, but that's going to put the one of Juan Salazar all the way back to the 15th position right now. So that's going to drop him back 13 positions from where he started this race. As far as movers and shakers go so far in the field, Connor Webb in the 129, he's in your 12th position right now. He's moved up 6 positions since the start of this race. And Joey, that kind of proved my point a little bit. I was going to ask you, with your road race experience, how tough is it at a track like this at Barcelona, a place where it's a lot of medium speed turns, not a lot of aerodynamic downforce, and you're really relying on the mechanical grip that you talked about as we look on board here with the battle for about 3rd position? How tough is that in the early laps to really maintain the grip level in the car?
I think each person goes through their own way of warming up the car and how it feels. And in terms of a driver, that really is kind of a characteristic that you bring to the table, and how you're able to control the car under those uncertain conditions. Because, yeah, it is a challenge out there. You have to know what your limits are. You have to back them up. You have to expect the car to slide. You have to expect to have yaw angle through the turns. You have to expect ABS to engage, which throws the pedals off. You have to expect traction control. So it's a totally different type of environment as you're bringing all of the temperatures up to, or all of the tires up to temperature. And not only that, but up to pressure as well. It takes a good 3 or 4 laps for everything to finally get settled in and the car to feel normal, as we got some action back there. 3 wide, looks like a BMW is also spun around. Looks like a red BMW of Mark Royce, number 50 back there. Had a little bit of contact, but Ian, it looked like I think there was 4 cars that might have been involved.
Oh, well, you saw it. There was a little bit of contact there between Royce and a few other drivers, and unfortunate for Mark Royce in the 50 machine. That's going to drop him all the way back down now to the 17th position. Almost fell away to the absolute back of this pack right now, as there's a battle going on for 6th and 7th position here between the drivers of Sebastian Morfin and John Barry. And right now, just a lot going on in the mid pack. Obviously, you see, oh my goodness, a few drivers in the sand trap here, Joey. What's going on? This is happening about the mid pack. We'll see what happened here.
Yeah, we're going to take a look. I think this involved quite a few cars, actually, Ian. I'm looking at maybe Tyler DeVinanzo. I'm sorry I butchered that name there. He was involved in this, and it really just developed out of turn 1 and turn 2. This Ferrari with the white and blue cut the chicane, went up and over those curbs, and just collected these 2 other cars.
Yeah, and once we'll watch again here. This is the 33. I don't believe that's Kerry Cantera, because Kerry Cantera still on the track here, but you see hard contact there for the 33 on your screen. Another car involved as well. That looks like, I think, the 47 of Kyle Eggert, and actually that was the 33 of Kevin Ayers. And you mentioned it, once you go over those turtle curves like that, Joey, really just nothing you can do. You have absolutely no control over the car, and I think that's a little bit of what we saw there.
No, there might have been a little bit of netcode going in with all 3 of those cars in going for the same spot, but you're right, Ian. Once you get pushed out wide and you jump over those curves, you're kind of a passenger at that point. My only thing is that when you go off track, you got to be able to rejoin safely, even if you're fighting for position. And unfortunately, that collected a few cars, but there's still 54 minutes remaining. And I think we're looking at our leader right now. That's Jose Puig out there in the 8 car. He's currently almost 3 seconds ahead of our 2nd place runner, Kerry Cantera. And looks like he's putting about a half a second per lap on them right now.
Well, and this is no surprise. Jose Puig was the class of the field last week at Daytona as well, Joey. And I was kind of interested. I mentioned it to William, our co-host at the time. I said I'm curious to see what Jose Puig will do once we go to a more traditional road course. And as you kind of know, the Daytona road course has, of course, the banking element involved here. Is there really any differences as a driver from going from the road course with the banking, maybe a Roval configuration, to here like a more traditional road course we'll see flatter turns?
In terms of a driving aspect, no, not really, because even on most of the Rovals, the oval section where we're doing the banking isn't a high stress load in terms of the grip limit of the car. It's a very high stress load in terms of the components that the car is seeing, compared to a flat racetrack. Anytime you add banking like that, you're putting more stress through everything. You're adding grip to it. But in terms of the driving, no, it's for the most part the same, because you look at how flat it is here at Barcelona, and that's really just how the Daytona infield is. There's a few exceptions, maybe like the Kansas Roval where we have to lift a little bit, maybe like Miami Homestead where we had to drive the GT cars a little bit harder in the banking, but for the most part, the oval sections of Rovals are pretty simple.
Well, so far, I mean, we've mentioned, Joey, this is not a simple configuration here at Barcelona. Very technical. You see, obviously, our drivers in the front of the pack, Jose Puig, Kerry Cantera, JP Alfonso, your top 3. Right now, you're looking at about a battle here for about 9th place. That's the 88 of Eric Budgarov, Arvin Sigdangi after the little bit mistake, and then Juan Salazar, our early front row sitter here, Joey, trying to make his way back through the field again. And Salazar has been quick compared to the cars around him, about a 4-second difference in lap time. So really doing a good job here trying to move up.
We should jump on board right now to the number 1 of Juan Salazar. He's in a 4-car battle right now, coming out of, I believe, turn 6. This is, getting into the back of that Ferrari just a little bit there, but this is fighting tooth and nail for the 10th, 11th, and 12th position on the racetrack.
Yeah, and look at that. 4 cars. You can throw a blanket over them right now. You mentioned 10th, 11th, 12th, make it even 13th here as this all goes all the way back to about Mark Royce, another driver who was involved as an incident as well. And you kind of see here the wide track that you mentioned earlier, Joey, allowing these drivers to go 2, maybe even 3 wide at times.
Yeah, looks like actually Mark Royce is going to overtake that position from Juan Salazar. He went a little bit wide there, and if you do that, here in iRacing, they will give you a time penalty, so they will have to slow down the car and give up a little bit of time, but he looks to be back up to speed right now, but I think this is our best race on the racetrack right here. That's the Connor Webb of 129 in that Ford car, running a little bit wide through the chicane. That's actually going to give a run to both of these BMWs behind him. That's Sebastian Morfin and Mark Royce. They're going to take it 3 wide down the straightaway here, Ian.
Yeah, and Royce trying to be the aggressive car here as he drives back into the corner. You remember earlier Royce was up there, maybe top 5, top 10 position, Joey, and we found himself knocked back here. So you got to imagine a little bit of a chip on the shoulder of the 50 driver there as he dives into the corner. You see still side by side here, and look at that right there. Juan Salazar, Sebastian Morfin, right there to take the positions if any of these drivers make a mistake.
Pretty impressive racing by the 129 of Connor Webb. I know that Ford is not very easy to tame out there, and he's in the middle of a battle between this Ferrari and BMW, and unfortunately, that's Juan Salazar that goes for a ride through the gravel. Just got in a little bit deep there. I didn't think I saw any contact between him and the Ford, but he'll get it gathered back up, point in the right direction, and start to claw back up towards this battle. Mark Royce in the 50 car, that's the black and orange BMW, kind of leading this 3-pack. He's stretched out a little bit, but I tell you what, Sebastian Morfin is tucked up under the back of that Ford of Connor Webb.
Yeah, and you mentioned here the Ford, kind of one of the harder cars to really keep a control under here, especially with all the technicality with a rear wheel drive of the Ford as well. Really makes it a difficult car to manage, but if you can, definitely does pay dividends with the control you have out of the rear wheel. And right now you look on board with the 14, Sebastian Morfin, as he tries to chase down Connor Webb here, and you can see just how tight it is, the battles here, how close these cars get to each other as he tries to make the move to the inside of Morfin here. He does have the spot, but you see there,
oh, we got to spin for the lead. We got to spin for the lead. Kerry Cantera out of turn 1, the 333. He was actually the lead car, and he is spun around by himself. That's going to promote JP Alfonso in the 996 to the lead right now. Our leader, Jose Puig, who is really in control of the race, had a mistake earlier, let 2 cars by, and right now he's hunting down the 996 of JP Alfonso. I'm sorry to cut you off, Ian, but I had to throw the Dale Jr. in there when the car went around.
Well, it's okay. Just never let it happen ever again. Even though I've done it to you multiple times, and we'll call it even. But yeah, that's going to give the lead to the 996 of JP Alfonso. And since he got the lead here, Joey, I'm going to go ahead and give him a shout out right now. He is the presenting sponsor here of our GT3 series on the Ignite Racing League. And if you're interested about his tattoo shop over there in Norcross, Georgia, you could go ahead and check out, if I could find the website here, because I've lost it right now. Here it is, www.jpalfonsostudios.com. You can see his recent work and booking information. And I think right now, if you get a tattoo with JP, you get a tattoo with a champion, Joey.
At least right now, he does have 47 more minutes to hang on to this lead. And I know that Jose Puig has been a tough customer out there, but I love the choice of the Porsche right now in the GT3 class. I've done a lot of GT3 racing in the simulator recently, and that Porsche is very strong, especially on the long run. It really holds on to the pace, but only a 40% fuel capacity in all of these cars tonight, so we will be seeing a couple pit stops, and now that we're almost 15 minutes into the race, we might see some of those windows open and an early taker or two start to set off that fuel strategy game.
Well, and you and I are covering a lot of oval racing as well, Joey. So not as, quite exciting as these drivers make the drive on the pit road. Obviously, all these GT3 cars, do have the pit limiter. So, speeding on pit road isn't so much of a thing that we run into, especially here on road racing. But it's always interesting to see the drivers who decide to pit first, maybe pit second, and how those dominoes tend to fall, especially here with the two tire stop. Or I'm sorry, the two stops they have to make, and one of them has to be for tires. You can really pit some of the strategy against your fellow drivers.
You can make the dominoes fall your direction if you're aggressive with it, and that's exactly what JP Alfonso is doing right now. He's being aggressive with the racetrack, knocking down those cones. I actually think that he might have gotten a little bit of a slowdown there. No, he looks to be up to speed. It just looks like that Porsche is really good on the brakes and able to slow the car rapidly. Comparing the last few lap times, JP Alfonso out front 146.4, that second place car 146.9. He did stretch it out a little bit, but if you look on the screen, it certainly seems to me that the third place number 22 of Philip Forrester is kind of joining this battle of Jose Puig chasing down Alfonso.
You mentioned it. They really are right now. They really just joined into this battle with Alfonso Puig. Forrester now finding himself up there. I would say it kind of falls back a few seconds there once you get to Bros, Ott, Bergenhoff, Cantera. Obviously, we saw he had those issues earlier, Joey. So right now, we kind of mentioned it. Whoever's going to make the least amount of mistakes is probably going to come home with your checkered flag. We're only 15 minutes into this race, and right now, JP Alfonso, one of the drivers that hasn't made a mistake, he's up front right now.
Yeah, let's go ride on board right now with our second place runner, that number 8 car of Puig. He's hunted down our leader of Alfonso, and it was about a second gap before, and it's now under half a second. I'm looking at it about 0.3 of a second as they're going to go through this very fast section. This is a tricky right-hand corner that they're coming up to. You got to make sure to keep it on the racetrack. We've seen a couple cars have slowdowns through there. Looks like they both push the limits just a little bit, but kind of keep it there. And the battle continues to rage on, but that Ferrari is looking racy right now.
Well, you mentioned it. The Ferrari is looking good right now. Car choice, such an important factor, especially in GT3 racing. And even then, you kind of alluded to it here with your racing on iRacing. The balance of power and really between these cars, and I don't know if they do it in this league or not, Joey, this is a conversation we had before the race, it really can make a difference here. And you see it right now in the battle of the league, the differences between the two car classes really just battling each other, not only for superiority on the racetrack, but also that constructors as well.
I think the biggest difference we might see here is the power of the slipstream, and that Ferrari is tucked up under the Porsche. He's going to make a late move down here into turn 1, hard on the brakes. We're going to see how hard Alfonso fights it. He's going to let him have the position. That promotes Jose Puig in that number 8 black Ferrari back up to the lead, but check out that number 22 car, Philip Forrester, in that third place is starting to close in on it now. He's under a second to that JP Alfonso car.
Yeah, and we kind of looked at it there, coming down the front stretch and the slipstream that Puig had there on Alfonso, and I think you can kind of attest to it a little bit with your experience, Joey. That was kind of a textbook pass as far as using the slipstream, and then just showing the pass late there at the end really gave JP Alfonso no options there but to just yield the position.
Something I am seeing on our second place runner right now, Ian. JP Alfonso is sporting some front end damage on that Porsche. One of the things that this racetrack has, third place, Philip Forrester, wicked loose through that high speed corner. Going to have to give up a little bit of time down that straightaway, but getting back to that damage on the front end of Alfonso's car, it's never good to have any sort of damage on the front end, especially on the bumper that has the splitter, and it's so crucial for providing that grip for the front of that Porsche that doesn't have any weight on it. I think we're going to see this car suffer on pace, and that Ferrari just continue to get faster.
Well, and you mentioned too, we saw it there in the long front stretch there on the start finish line. That's probably the most important place where you want to have that downforce is in that high speed section. Going to that really hard braking zone there in the turn 1. If you really don't have it right now, like JP Alfonso may possibly not have, given the condition of his car, you mentioned it, Joey, just so hard there to hold on to the position here. On board here with JP Alfonso as he gives chase here to Jose Puig, and you see just the gap there that's already built up to to Puig. And remember, Puig already had a mistake in this race. Alfonso really has ran a pretty clean race. Puig had a race still beating him as far as pace goes here at Barcelona.
He was beating him earlier, and I want to jump back to the number 88 car in 6th place position, Eric Bergdorf. This is our best battle on the racetrack currently, Ian. Looks like Daniel in that 62, that green Audi, followed by this black and purple Eric Bergdorf car. That's the number 88 on your screen. Pretty cool looking paint job, I must say, as they're battling out for what would be 5th place on the racetrack.
Yeah, a very America paint scheme there, I will say. And then I do like the number choice as well. The 88, obviously, being a Dale Jr. Fan myself. Well, I guess I still am, but he's not an active racer right now. Always have some love for the 88 as well. So you saw that battle there between Bergeroff and Ott. But here right now on your screen is that battle still. And you kind of mentioned it there. That's the 62 in front of him is Ott. And Bergdorf was right there, starting to fall back a little bit in the BMW. I don't think there's anything wrong necessarily. I think Ott just has a little bit more pace right now.
It's the ebb and flow of a 60-minute race. We're only 20 minutes into it right now. You know, some of the speed might come from the setup. Some of it might just come from the rhythm of the drivers and how comfortable they are out there. As we jump back here, this is Juan Salazar. He's kind of fighting his way back up through the field right now. He's currently in the 13th position, duking it out with Justin Knapp. That's the white Ferrari on your screen. And Ian, this is a great battle. It doesn't matter if you're up here for the lead or battling now for 13th. It's fights all over the racetrack.
Well, at least for us watching along here at home, Joey, you're correct. But if you're a driver like Juan Salazar is, was, you know, for sort of the front row of this race, you got to imagine there's a little bit of frustration here as you're trying to work your way through the field. Great battle or not, I don't think he cares about great battles now as we have a car off in front of our leaders. I believe that looked like possibly the 47 of Kyle Edgar there. I'm not entirely sure who it was, Joey, but there was one driver off there. You see them on pit road now. The battle will continue here for the lead as Alfonso actually starting to reel in a little bit of time here on Puig.
Yeah, I think Puig's just having to deal with a little bit of dirty air from those lapped cars in front of him. Set his last lap time off a little bit, but you're right, this battle is back on for the lead, right on board with JP Alfonso in the number 996 Porsche. Fitting, it might be a 992 chassis though, but I'll give him the 996. Hopefully he's got one sitting in the garage out there, and if he does, I am very jealous.
Well, you gotta imagine with his tattoo shop in Norcross, Georgia. And if you want to check that out, you can go to www.jpalfonsostudios.com and see some of his work and even book for himself. But he probably's got a 996 in the garage. But I saw that myself too as well, Joey. I knew it wasn't a 996. Obviously, it was a 992 chassis we have here on iRacing. But I was like, oh, I get it. I see what he's going for.
I get it. I see the parallels here, but I tell you what, he's tucked up in the slipstream of that black Ferrari, our leader. He's starting to hunt him down right now, Ian. I'm seeing a faster lap from Alfonso that last lap compared to Puig, and I wonder if the Ferrari is starting to struggle on its tires, or I wonder if the Porsche and that strong long run pace that it has is coming into effect here, and Alfonso's just maximizing that rear end grip that he's got.
Well, let me ask you this, Joey. You know, in oval racing, a lot of the time you say you go to a track like Daytona, Talladega, maybe even Atlanta now with the new configuration that they have. Even if you are one of those cars that has nose damage, you can kind of tuck yourself into the slipstream and maybe alleviate some of the negative issues of that damage. Obviously, you're not going to be leading the race, but you can kind of hide yourself there in the pack and still make up positions that way. Does that work a little bit the same way here in road racing, or do you really just got to, is the slipstream just really that much of an advantage here?
The slipstream is for sure important, but in terms of damage and when you pick up damage on the race car, I think the biggest thing is you have to learn and adapt to what the race car is currently driving like. So for instance, if you had a perfect race car before and now you picked up damage and it doesn't like to turn and you have more understeer, you have to do adjustments as a driver to help the car along through the racetrack until you can get it back to the pits and the crew can make necessary repairs to get it kind of back up to speed. But in road racing, if you pick up damage, people say, oh, you lost 20 pounds of downforce. That's going to affect you X amount through sector 1. That's engineer talk. You can knock things off of that car, and sometimes it'll get faster.
Well, less weight, right? So, or I guess if you make the car more rigid, it'll go over the bumps better, right? I guess that's how it works. I'm not an engineer. You are, so.
I am not an engineer. I am a driver. I am a monkey. They don't let me touch the tools. But I will say that those 996 cars, speaking of JP Alfonso out there, those 996 chassis cars, when they were racing Daytona, they would have a tendency to very loosely hang on those rear bumpers way back in the day because it just so happened when those rear bumpers came off, it picked up quite a few mile an hour up that banking, which sounds like a benefit for 24 hours around Daytona.
Yeah, I mean, once you add that over the course of, I don't know, hundreds of laps, I think probably a few seconds, maybe even a few tenths of a second a lap, would start to add up over a little bit of time. So I can see what you're saying there, Joey. And looking back here, actually, this is a great battle that you're watching on your screen right now between John Barry in the 7. He's ahead of this battle right now, and then Arvin Sandanghi in the 87. He's in the Porsche right now. That Hoonigan Shell Mobile livery you see there. That's kind of a throwback to some of the, I believe, the like Porsche liveries we see before, Joey. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but I think you probably do. You're more of a road racing guy than I am myself, I will have to admit here. But right now, this is one of the best battles on your racetrack. These drivers only a few car lengths from each other, and this has been going on for just a couple of laps now, Joey.
I gotta say, when you said Hoonigan, I had no idea what you're talking about, but that looks like a pink Porsche out there that used to cruise around in, believe the 1970s. So I know that one that you're talking about, but Arvin right now that we're riding on board with this pink Porsche looks to have a little bit of rear wing damage that might be holding back his pace, but oh my gosh, do we have Philip Forrester? I'm not sure if Philip Forrester has made a mistake, but he is currently in pit road right now. He might be doing his pit stop. Yes, it looks like he's taking tires right now. Ian, I think this is the strategy of the first of the cars coming down pit road.
I was going to say, this has to be the start of our stops here now because we're almost halfway through this race and nobody has dived to pit road yet unless they're dealing with some damage. So Forrester there you see in the 9 is one of our first drivers to dive to pit road. And just to explain a little context here with the Hoonigan reference there is that, yes, you are correct. The Hoonigan paint is a reference to the paint in the 70s. But the Hoonigan is Ken Block's outfit there on the rally side. Ironically enough, I have the mix of rally and oval racing in my background. But no road racing, believe it or not. So that's what's going on there. And actually, speaking of Hoonigan, I was just talking about him now. The 87 of St. Danghi is just spun.
Looks like that pink Porsche has gone for a ride out there in a very tricky section. One of the things to note with these Porsches, with that engine in the back, here in the simulator, it kind of has a pendulum effect as we ride on board here. The incident's actually going to happen a little bit up the road. We're going to follow behind this Ferrari here, hard on the brakes, down into probably second gear, get the throttle down. This is where you got to be careful putting the power down. And upcoming here into this left-hander, he's going to lose the back end. And unfortunately, just snapped around on him. Ian, I actually think that he might have dipped the right rear into the grass. It looked that aggressive on the spin.
Well, and this is the one few parts of the track that I remember here from racing at Barcelona. As you see now, Arvin Sandanghi, he will take his 87 car to pit road, get some repairs, probably some fresh rubber on there now after that spin. But that's actually one of the few places of that track that I remember. And you do want to get out to as wide as you possibly can because that allows you to not only straight line the corner, but keep as much throttle in it as you possibly can. And I think you're absolutely right, Joey. Just dip 2 tires, and it's that easy in these GT3 cars to cause yourself spin there.
I tell you what, it's busy coming off of pit road. Jose Puig, our leader, is kind of swamped by other cars that are also on pit road right now. It'll be interesting to see how this lead battle plays out, as we also have Eric Bergdorf up to speed in that BMW. Right behind here, we got kind of 4 cars on one screen. I'm not sure who that black and blue BMW is. I'm trying to get the car number. That is the 88 of Bergdorf. I'm sorry, I miscalled that. He is battling it out for Puig in that black Ferrari for what will be the race lead, Ian.
Yeah, and Puig able now just to make the spot there on Bergdorf, and you kind of expected that just with the pace that Puig's had all night long. Bergdorf, nothing to shake a stick at either. Been running about that top 5 position all night long as well. So, a good shot for him to get up there with the top dog, see exactly where he kind of finds himself. But again, kind of falling back in that 4th position here. JP Alfonso now giving chase to him as well. And you see how close that battle is right now. But just behind him again, Philip Forster just murdering more cones here tonight.
Yeah, let's take a look as Philip Forster is all over the back of this Alfonso. Alfonso's going to take a look down the inside of Bergdorf in that BMW. Hard on the brakes goes both Porsches. Forster's going to scoot through as well. That's going to promote him up to 5th place. Bergdorf all the way back to 6th place. I think the number 22 of Philip Forster looks to be the most aggressive car out of this pack of 4 as that purple Ferrari's off track. Looks like he's going to give room to this lead battle as everyone goes through. Great awareness by that driver.
And it looks like right now, as we watch on it, and forgive me, Joey, if I'm misquoting this, it might be an error by ATV. I know, actually, I do think it is an error by ATVO now, but everybody has pitted here with the exception of Michael Farrell, Sebastian Morfin, and Kevin Ayers, who right now, a couple of laps down, I think, are in the garage working on repairs. So all of our first stops have been done, Joey. Remember, you have to make tire stop here on one of these stops, but you do have to make 2 mandatory stops at least in our 60-minute race here. So it took until 30 minutes to see our first stop. Kind of interested when we'll see the second stop here for some of these drivers.
We mentioned strategy earlier, and the number 62, Daniel Ott, is our current leader. I saw most of these GT3 cars up on the jacks, which means they were taking tires out there. I'll have to go back and look at the data from all of these pit stops, but I think what we're seeing here is this Audi did not take tires on his first stop, which then leapfrogged these leaders. And now we're seeing Jose Puig there slowly reel in our leader in this green Audi. This will be a battle for the lead here just in the matter of a couple corners.
Yeah, and I think the no tire call, at least on the first stop, Joey, is enough to gain you a few quick track positions and maybe getting out from the mid pack. But I really don't think it's going to win you a race here, especially with the pace that we saw Puig having. You weren't here last week, Joey, but at Daytona, Puig was running laps almost as good as his fastest lap, even on about 15 to 20 lap old tires. So really just a fantastic car management personality that Puig has so far. That's really just allowed him to get up out of the back bumper of Ott, and you can see here where the difference in tires is really just making all the difference.
Puig's going to take it deep on the brakes in that Ferrari and easily clear the 62 of Ott. He promotes himself back up to the lead. We'll see how Ott can hang on, because I tell you what, he's got 2 hungry Porsches of JP Alfonso up next right there, and then he also has the 22 of Philip Forster right behind Alfonso. We'll see if Ott can use those old tires, maybe tuck up under the back of that rear wing of the Ferrari, learn a thing or two, and hang out with these leaders. And that's what he needs to do to salvage his race right now. But Alfonso looks aggressive in that Porsche, Ian.
And like I mentioned earlier, I think it's a neat little trick to get you here a few track positions, but I don't think it's going to pay dividends. And I don't know about you, Joey, but I wouldn't want to be the driver here of the 62 machine with Ott, as we see just out from Alfonso's perspective here, how quick that gap is closing. I wouldn't necessarily want to be him with these guys breathing down my neck, especially as you saw the pace from Puig here, able to make the pass. Alfonso's running similar, if not the same lap times, and Ott's about 2 seconds off from these drivers that have taken tires.
He was a little bit off that last time, but I'm going to spit your words right back at you, where Jose Puig, he's able to capitalize on these older tires, and there's no reason that Daniel Ott can't learn from that. And I tell you what, each driver is different, and some drivers like to have a carrot out there in front of them to chase. And right now, it looks like Daniel Ott has definitely picked up the pace in comparison to that last lap. Sure, Jose Puig is starting to escape a little bit, but looking at those lap times, Daniel Ott has certainly closed it up in terms of the relevance. I wouldn't count Alfonso out from being overly aggressive and trying to grab the second place, though.
Oh, and something else we maybe haven't talked about as well is Ott could just be trying to save a little bit here, as he knows that he's running on older tires, and maybe once he has the 996 there of JP Alfonso up to him, he starts to accelerate away a little bit, and then kind of tries to make
There's
a
the
move again here. As
over-under,
actually
Ian.
we saw the over under move. Yeah, I was just about to say, Joey, I'll eat my own words here again as we saw the move there. Oh my goodness, as we see contact there between Alfonso and Bergeroff.
It's Forrester going up the inside of Alfonso there. Alfonso really got put off of his game through that section. They're going to go too wide through here. This is very tricky in those Porsches. We've already seen one turned around. Up over the curbs goes Forrester. He's going to tuck into the back of Alfonso. They're going to go single file through this fast right-hander. Got to keep it on the racetrack, but here comes the 22 of Forrester tucked up in that slipstream. He's got a deep braking opportunity. Alfonso really throwing a couple blocks on the straightaway there. The 22 is going to get the better drive off, but I think Alfonso's going to hold on. No, he's going to relinquish that position. Philip Forrester up to the third place.
Yeah, that's kind of surprising there from Forrester, because I actually thought for a second, Joey, he was maybe giving the position back to Alfonso there after the little bit of contact between the two. And I think he actually did for a second there, and then gave chase to Alfonso. And you saw was there immediately able to get the position back right away. I think that was a little bit of smart driving there from Alfonso. You saw how aggressive Forrester was being into some of the corners. You already made contact. Just let him go by for now. If he is faster, hey, he is. If not, you'll be able to catch him in just a second.
Not only that, Ian, but one thing we talked about at the beginning of this race, if you get your timing thrown off in these sectors, meaning you're racing too wide, it really slows down your lap time. And look at behind Alfonso. That's Bergdorf, who's closed in the gap, and he's also brought the 941 of Alan Bros. We haven't mentioned him at all. So all of these cars have really been sucked up to that lead battle between second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth right now.
Yeah, sucked in indeed. And you mentioned at the battle there between Bergeroff and Brosdow, just about a second difference between the two. And then you go back even farther, just another second as well. And then you got to go back 20 seconds there to Juan Salazar in the 7th position. So quite a big spread here once you get from about 6th to 7th. But our top 6 drivers, I will say, Joey, still got a chance here to win it.
I think that more than our top 6 drivers have a chance to win it. I want to jump back up to JP Alfonso. He has not let go of Philip Forrester at all. He continues to hound the back of that Porsche. And I think he's just looking for a better opportunity. I don't think that there's really a pace difference between these two cars, Ian, but one thing that I have noticed, that green Audi of Daniel Ott is taking advantage of these two cars battling. If Forrester's off in the last corner, that's going to affect his run out onto the front straightaway. Take a look at Alfonso coming up in the slipstream, Ian.
We've mentioned it so many times before, the slipstream down the long straightaway here. Alfonso will try to use it to his advantage like it's been used against him so many times. He'll dive to the inside here on Forrester as they hide into tire number 1, but not able to get enough of advantage there on Forrester. And Forrester has the preferred line going back into the left-hander, so he'll be able to hang on to this position here now with 23 minutes left to go in our race here. And really, you mentioned it, Joey. He was right there, but Alfonso just not able to be aggressive enough going into turn 1 there. And I think that's a testament to the kind of driver that Alfonso is. He really doesn't want to make these aggressive moves. He likes to let the race come to him here, as we see now. A pass to the inside here has the door-to-door advantage there on Forrester, and they'll go in here going into the next turn, but we'll see if Alfonso here is able to keep the advantage as they head into the left-hander.
Alfonso's really got to push the issue here. They're going to go side by side. This is going to be one of the fastest corners on the racetrack, this right-hander. The 22 is going to have the advantage. Alfonso is going to have to tuck in the tail, slide back behind the 22, look for another opportunity to pass. But oh my gosh, Ian, this battle isn't going anywhere. Alfonso looks to be one of the most aggressive cars on the racetrack. Don't confuse aggressive with reckless. He wants to get back up towards the front right now. He feels like he's got a fast race car. He wants to get by that 22. He sees him as a roadblock, and he's throwing everything at him. I do see that he got the front end fixed on his Porsche. We'll see if he's able to capitalize on the slipstream going down the front straightaway this time, Ian. Maybe that 22 is running a little bit of a lower downforce setting, which is keeping the 996 at an arm's distance down the straightaway.
And something else that kind of stuck out to me while this battle has been going on is that it's just allowed the two machine of Daniel Ott to open his advantage now up to about 2 seconds over Forrester and Alfonso here as they continue to battle for your final podium spot. So we kind of mentioned with Ott earlier, we thought he was maybe a sitting duck to these guys. Well, not if they battle side by side continuously.
Yeah, let's jump to Alan Bros in the number 941 in 6th place. He has caught Bergdorf, and actually Bergdorf is sniffing pretty close to Alonso right now, but this purple Ferrari looks pretty good on the screen. He's just slowly been clicking off the laps, and I'm looking at his last lap, looks to be almost 0.6 faster than that BMW in front of him. And Ian, one thing that I'm noticing out the front windshield of this Ferrari is not only the BMW, but I see 2 Porsches right there that he can catch as well.
Yeah, the battle that we mentioned for third has kind of dragged itself all the way back here down to the battle for 5th and 6th. And yeah, you mentioned it. These drivers, if anybody makes a mistake here on this about 4th through, I would say, 6th battle, it could be any one of these drivers' positions. So yeah, really, especially with the second stop here that we still have to do with the 40% fuel. A lot of these drivers have already made their tire stops, Joey. Really, any of these positions could be the difference between a podium spot, maybe even victory lane here at the end of the night.
And I think we've got our first takers for the second round of pit stops. Daniel Ott hard on the brakes right now, coming down into pit lane. This is the second place car. He's got to stop on his marks. We should see it go full up with fuel, and then he will have to take the tires on this stop. You remember, he did not take tires the first time around. I also saw the 22 of Philip Forrester in that Porsche come into pit road. He might have a little bit of a shorter stop, not having to take tires, but Ian, the dominoes are falling for the second round of stops.
Yeah, you see Forrester heading the pit road for a fuel stop as well. And I was kind of curious about Ott. We don't have any numbers up here in the booth, Joey, as far as all these cars and differences to pit road with and without tires as well. But I wonder if Ott knew that by staying out there, that was able to put himself in a strategy where he could hang on to these leaders when they come back out. He does find himself 47 seconds behind the leaders right now, but a lot of these drivers still at the pit.
I think that no matter what, you have to count it as a success for the Daniel Ott strategy. He was on used tires. Sure, the leader was able to get by him here. As we check on him here, that's the number 8, Jose Puig, on your screen, our current leader in that black Ferrari. But Daniel Ott let by the leader, and then he was able to hang out on the back end of this Ferrari and not let anybody else by. Sure, the other cars are going to leapfrog him in terms of taking the tires, but I would call that a success in terms of your track position and the pace you were able to keep.
And we did have one driver off track there. I'm not entirely sure who it was. Just saw a little bit of smoke there on the left-hand side of the screen, and then just the flash of a car. So we'll try to get that back to you if we can. But you just you mentioned it. It was able to do a really good job of hanging on to that second position. Didn't hurt him too much that 2 drivers going, mano a mano behind him, Joey. That's definitely going to help you out anytime you're trying to hang on to a lead or anytime you're trying to catch 2 cars in front of you. And I mean, really, if you're a driver that's going off strategy, you just got to put yourself in a position where a good break can happen to you. It doesn't guarantee the good break, but at least puts you at the poker table to get that good break.
Definitely, and we had the number 996 of JP Alfonso serve his pit stop, just a quick splash of fuel, and he is back out on the racetrack right now. We'll have to see once all of these pit stop cycles come to an end. Our lead car, Jose Puig, still hasn't stopped yet, but he's turning consistent 145s out there, the fastest car on the racetrack. Currently, second place, Eric Bergdorf. I believe that he has yet to stop as well. And the third place car of number 1, Juan Salazar. Those are the 3 cars right now who have yet to take their second pit stop. JP Alfonso is scored as your current second place runner, but the first car on the track as taking both stops right now, Ian.
Yeah, and that's a really good position to be in, especially if you can kind of get in front of it early. You know, I still think he'll have some competition here going down the stretch, but you mentioned it, putting yourself in a spot where you can be out in front of this race here, or maybe in a spot where you can be out in front of this race with only 16 minutes left to go. I think that's what you got to try to do as a team, because we kind of seen it so far that Puig, no matter what he does, if he pits, he doesn't pit, he spins out. I'm curious if he could still win this race with a totaled car at this point.
Yeah, you know, there's always interesting things that can happen in racing, and one of them, it's kind of like magnets, and you're always attached to somebody, and the 996 and 22 have been attached to each other all race. Sometimes Forrester is out in front, sometimes Alfonso is out in front, but one thing is for sure, these 2 Porsches should be used to each other and share a beer after this one, because it's been some great racing just even between these 2 for what will be second place once all the cycles are ended.
Yeah, and right now, actually, if we go back to about the 8th or 9th position, there's actually a really solid battle here forming between Kerry Cantera and John Barry. There you see Barry in the 7th machine. Was Japes able to get a little bit of a slight edge there on Cantera? I've been watching this battle go on for about 2 or 3 laps here now, Joey, and they've been side by side near every single corner almost.
Yeah, another manufacturer battle, the Lamborghini on the inside, both hard on the brakes. A little bit of contact between the 2 sends the Ferrari spinning. That's Kerry Cantera in that Lamborghini. Gonna move him up a spot over John Barry in that blue Ferrari.
And then, of course, as soon as I hype up the battle, Joey, one of them takes the other one out. That just kind of makes sense.
It happens out there. It can be really tough to judge the distances on the racetrack. And to be honest, I was watching that battle. It looked like a little bit of netcode because they both checked up pretty good. They both knew they were side by side. It was just a little bit of a funnel, and sometimes contact happens out there.
And I think maybe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Joey, another thing that goes into it is that, you know, all these cars aren't entirely the same. So what might be the breaking point in, say, like a Porsche, isn't going to be the same breaking point as a BMW. Maybe just wasn't expecting a slowdown at that degree and just caused the incident as we saw.
That's a great point to bring up. And we talked a little bit about BOP earlier, and the best way to describe it, ooh, this Porsche goes really deep on the brake, missed his brake zone there. Thankfully, no contact. But the best way to describe it, our leader is in the pits. I'm sorry, I'm getting distracted all over the place, Ian. That's our number. Oh, no, I'm sorry. This is Eric Bergdorf, our second place car in the pits, trying to get a little bit of fuel and tires right now. And I completely forgot what I thought about 4 seconds ago, Ian. That's how this brain works over here.
Yeah, I don't even remember either, honestly. It's been a long day and, you know, an exciting round of racing here from the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalonia. And still, Jose Puig is kind of the classier field here. So we'll go through the field a little bit, Joey, and see if we can remember what we were talking about. JP Alfonso still hanging around in second there after a good start to this race and a good run last week as well, trying to get that second consecutive podium position. But it's really been a battle between him and Philip Forrester right now. And you've seen it. You mentioned the ebbs and flows of road course racing. Those 2 guys, they might spend a few laps away from each other, but it seems like every time we look, they're battling for position, Joey.
They are battling for position nonstop, and these are the best battles on the racetrack because everybody walks away with a smile at the end of it, and that's where these stories and the camaraderie is made, especially only working round 2 of this series. I bet you throughout the entire season, these 2 are going to have some tremendous battles on the racetrack, as it looks like Alfonso's really using up all of that track in front of him. We saw the 22 car be a little bit faster on the straightaway earlier, Ian. I'm curious in this slipstream how aggressive he gets into turn one. I think he's still too far away to make a move, but he's closing pretty rapidly on the back of that Porsche.
Yeah, I agree with you, Joey. I don't think he had enough time to make the move that time, but I think if we watch that next time around and we get that battle next time around, if it makes it to the back to the start finish line in the same positions, I think they'll get the position then at that point. That was a very risky move. Well, it wasn't a risky move, but you could tell that they were thinking it, Joey.
They are definitely thinking it, and right now I really do think it will be a battle for the second place between these two. Our leader, Jose Puig, nothing has really changed. He's been continuing to click off laps out front. He actually just went by that Ford that you see on the racetrack. I believe that was Connor Webb in that Ford. He had some good battles earlier that we were covering, but I'm curious, Ian, only about 11 and a half minutes left. How far can Jose stretch this Ferrari on fuel before he finally has to come down pit road for that last pit stop? I was noticing a lot of these second pit stops are very, very short on the fuel fill. I wonder if he's going to pull maybe a last lap and just cruise it down pit lane.
Well, he has a 32-second advantage right now, so he does have a little bit of time to play with if he were to make that run, to pit road at any point during this race. And I'm kind of with you there, Joey. I think maybe he's just hanging on to it, seeing if maybe JP Alfonso will lose any more time. And right now, last time around, he ran a 1:45.6, which is only 5/10 of a second off his best lap time, whereas JP Alfonso now finds himself running a 1:46.5 last time around. And that was a dip from a 1:46.2 the lap before that. So I think that Puig, he's got the idea right now, at least, Joey.
He's definitely doing what he needs to do on the racetrack, clicking off consistent fast laps. We see how consistent he is here. His best lap compared to his last lap is only a half of a second difference. And compare that to the second place car. That is 1 full second faster than what these cars are running. So yeah, Ian, once our leader comes down to pit road, I think he will have a healthy margin over this battle for second place, which has gone nowhere between these two Porsches.
No, and really, it's not. It's just been these two guys, and rubber banding from Mario Kart comes to mind. It's like one of the time that either one of them gets too far away from the other one, it's like the other will just make up time again. And they've had this perpetual battle of about 6 to 10 car lengths. You see there as we go on board here with Philip Forrester, and that's just been the story of the race so far. There's been contact. There's been back and forth racing between these two. There's been a couple of doors, to say the least. And here, again, another shot to the inside. You mentioned it, Joey.
Yeah, Alfonso was in a terrible track position going into that hard hairpin braking. And I tell you what, the 22 just did a really easy over-under, carrying the speed through that slow section. I wonder if Alfonso had a little bit of a slowdown and just kind of had to give up some speed, but that makes the number 22 car of Philip Forrester your second place runner currently.
And I think you might have made a good point there, Joey, with the slowdowns. Just so easy to do, especially on this track as well, even in that section of turns there, especially before the tight left-hander. Even when coming out of that turn, you get a little bit over that rumble strip there, like a lot of these drivers feel comfortable doing. That's even a slowdown as well.
That is a slowdown. And, something that we don't often do here, but I think these battles are kind of calming down. I want to run through the field real fast because we still got Jose Puig out front right now leading. Nothing has changed there. He's got 33 seconds on the field. I'll take the top 5 here. And then also second place, number 22, Philip Forrester battling out with JP Alfonso there. We've covered them quite a bit. We talked about that fourth place car, Daniel Ott, in that 62. This is that green Ferrari. Used that alternate strategy to his advantage so far. Finds himself in the fourth place. Back there in fifth place is that bright purple Ferrari of Alan Bros. Also a second stop tire taker here, similar to Daniel Ott. And then that leads us back into that sixth place Eric Bergdorf, Ian.
Yeah, Bergdorf right now holds on to that sixth position, Joe, and you kind of mentioned it, just been kind of hanging around there all night long, really not making any too drastic moves, but also just a really solid effort there so far. Finds himself about 40 seconds right now off of our leader, but obviously Jose Puig is stretching that long fuel run. Back from there, we go to Juan Salazar. He finds himself right now in the one machine, but unfortunately seventh position after starting this race on top of the field, not on our pole position. But at least able to get out there and be on our top road to start the race. And a good run, but still 5 positions that he's lost so far throughout the field. Another driver that's lost 5 positions so far has been the triple three of Kerry Cantera. Not been exactly the night they've been looking for as well. If they started this race towards the front of the field as well, and just have kind of struggled so far from the drop of the green flag. A lot of these drivers that have been very strong so far throughout the race this evening have kind of fallen onto some hard times. One driver that hasn't had so much of an issue is John Barry back there in the 7th machine in 9th place. Hasn't had too many issues as far as incidents goes. And you see there, he started in 14th position. So a good run for him so far, but really just hasn't had the pace here to catch up to our leaders. One car that looked like they had the pace early, but kind of fell off is going to be your 10th place position right now. Arvin Sandangi had a really early incident, still has gained 2 positions from the drop of the green flag, Joey. But right now, I don't think that's where he expected himself to be this far in the race.
No, but getting all the way through to this part is just a feat in itself. And there's 11th place Connor Webb on your screen. This is the lone Ford that we've seen in the field. Had a good couple battles earlier, but just kind of a little bit of a lonely race right now. And then in 12th place, we have another Ferrari. This is Justin Knapp back there in the 12th place. Actually has moved up a little bit since his starting position of 15th. 13th position is Michael Farrell back there in another. Oh, this is a Mercedes. We haven't seen too many Mercedes out there today. And then everybody else right now, I think actually, yeah, no, that's all of the cars that are currently running on the racetrack. I want to jump back up to this battle for 6th place right now. This is the battle between Eric Bergdorf and Juan Salazar. This is one of the closest battles that we've got on the racetrack, and it is for a top 5 position, Ian.
Well, and you mentioned too, just 7/10 of a second between these two drivers, and it is a battle for a top 5 spot. And yeah, you look around our field right now, only the other close battle really right now on the racetrack is that battle between Barry and Sandangi, but we'll keep it here for a little bit on board. As you see there, Bergdorf trying to give chase here to Bros, and really just not able to get enough of the slipstream here coming into the front straightaway here. And I apologize, that's actually Salazar there that's giving chase to him. And we saw Salazar has been kind of on the warpath all night long, Joey. He got to that early incident. He's really been on the revenge path after that.
Yeah, riding on board with this Ferrari, he looks to be struggling a little bit with the understeer in the car, at least through those longer. Yeah, see how much steering wheel he's got in this car? If we ride on board for a couple corners, understeer is where you're turning the steering wheel, but just the front end of the car doesn't want to turn. But I tell you what, Bergdorf got a terrible run out of that hairpin, and Salazar's going to capitalize on it. Late on the brakes with the Ferrari, able to get the front end turned. That time, he is up into 6th place.
And while that battle was going on, the battle between Sandangi and Barry had just ended with both of them making contact into the sand trap as well. You see Barry there just able to get back up to speed, but Sandangi falls himself back into the 10th position. Now, they were battling there for that 9th spot, and both of them came together. Joey found themselves in the sand trap late in this race.
You always want to save your best racing for the end, but I tell you what, it can get tough out there. You've been hitting your marks for almost an hour now. You're trying to push the car. It's on old tires. The fuel level has changed. You're trying to squeeze every last little bit out of it, and it is really easy to overstep the limit, and unfortunately it happens, and when that happens, most likely contact as well.
Well, we've seen how good some of our drivers are at managing tires in this series. Puig comes to mind so far. He's only had a second fall off between this lap and his best lap, and I don't believe he's made it. Well, he has made a second stop here at this point now, actually. So, but some of these drivers, Joey, that haven't been able to manage the tires, they've seen fall up as greater as 3, even 5 seconds here from their fastest lap time to the times they're running now.
Our leader goes really wide there through that fast right-hand turn, and looking to be just over 2 minutes remaining in this race, Ian. It'll be curious to see if he gets around to the start finish to take 2 more laps to go, or if our leader will get the white flag this time. One battle that I just want to jump to real fast. 13th place on the racetrack right now. We haven't given a lot of camera time to Michael Farrell in this kind of blue and purple Mercedes, but he has hunted down Justin Knapp in that 18 Ferrari that you see right in front of him. And this is for 12th place, Ian.
Yeah, both of these drivers right now are 1 lap down. Add Connor Webb into that 1 lap down club, but this is still a battle for position here. And like you mentioned, it's the 12th position as we have a minute 42 seconds here left in our race. So I don't think he got the white flag this time around. So they might have 1 more lap to battle it out here between themselves. And these positions, especially late in a race, Joey, going in the next week, as we see there, a little bit of a wiggle. That's going to allow the position here to be more side by side here as they head into the left-hander. And this is going to even allow now John Barry to get into the position here and get into this conversation with Candera and Bergdorf.
Yeah, this is 3 cars all on one screen right now. Mercedes leads Ferrari, and this is a really slow section jumping the curbs, and you're right, John Barry in that blue Ferrari just goes over underneath this battle of Michael Farrell, and it's going to dissolve down the front straight as let's jump right back up to our leader, Jose Puig right now. He crossed the stripe right at about a minute 46 to go. I'm not sure if this is going to be 1 lap to go. I think it'll depend on his lap time, Ian.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what we have here, just to let you know what's going on at home, folks. We've got over an hour laps in the race, but still have 30 seconds left on our countdown timer here. So I believe next time by will be the white flag lap for Jose Puig. But irregardless here, Joey, it's just been a dominant run from him since the drop of the green flag. You don't have to deal with any of the shenanigans that go on farther in the field if you get yourself out to about a 3-second lead and just hang on to it for most of the race.
Yeah, looks like he is going to cross the start finish here. 3, 2, another lap in the books here. Jose Puig will have to go 1 more whole time around this Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya racetrack. Don't count out that 22 of Philip Forrester. He might be 3 seconds back, but that's just enough to keep our leader honest on the racetrack. No mistakes out of this number 8 car of the Ferrari, or else that 22 is going to be right there.
Well, you mentioned I don't think Forrester is going to make up 3 seconds in a lap here around Barcelona, but if Puig makes any kind of mistakes, if we have a spin out here from our leader, not trying to jinx him or anything like that, Forrester could swoop out and gain the position. Even Alfonso here, if 2 of the leaders get into an incident, I would say he still has a Hail Mary's amount of time to still win this race. But right now, I believe your 8 car, Jose Puig, as he heads into the final section here at Barcelona,
I think he's running out of gas right now. It's gone from 3 seconds down to 1.5 seconds on the racetrack. I'm not sure if Jose filled that Ferrari up with enough fuel right now. Look at this. The number 22, Philip Forrester's closed it. Only 1.5 seconds separates him from the leader, Ian.
I will say that would be quite anticlimactic. As now you see Forrester there, I think he got excited and saw the gap closing and just kind of overcooked that final corner. And if Puig was running out of gas, and you mentioned it, look how slow he is right now. Joey,
I think he's out of gas.
I think he still has power, but look at how gentle he's being with the car right now.
He's being very gentle. I wonder if the 22 missed his shot at the win. It looks like the number 8 is out of gas as he crosses start-finish line. And I tell you what, that was a 149.9 lap time out of our leader. Oh my gosh, talk about cutting it close, Ian.
Yeah, and then you look at Forrester, 148.7, so still a faster lap time, but not fast enough. Almost made me eat my words there.
That mistake.
Saying that he wasn't going to catch 3 seconds of lap time. in the time there as you see Forrester coming across the line right now. I still think he's happy with the second place finish given his reaction there, Joey. But I was going to say I wasn't expecting him to gain as much time as he did there in the final lap. I was not expecting fuel mileage to be that much of a difference as well.
One thing that you can never take for granted in racing is never call it quits. It ain't over till the fat lady sings, and that shows you right there. You can never give up. That Puig car looked like he ran out of gas and gave an opportunity to those runners behind him, and you got to capitalize on those opportunities when they present themselves. And I think that's going to wrap up all of the cars on the track currently, Ian.
Yeah, I think everybody's crossed the stripe so far as racing order goes. So obviously, Jose Puig, your winner. I do want to give a shout out to Juan Salazar. You find him now sitting in 5th position. A tough run from him there to go all the way down to the back of our pack after an early spin, but then works his way all the way up to the 5th position after a really good effort from him, Joey.
Yeah, definitely. There's quite a few cars here, and I think we'll get our official results here on the screen. As it looks like, Ian, you called it. Jose Puig in that Ferrari, really dominating night here tonight. Philip Forrester in 2nd place. JP Alfonso 3rd. Daniel Ott in 4th. Juan Salazar in 5th place. Alan Bros there in 6th place. Eric Bergdorf 7th. Kerry Cantera, John Barry, and Arvin Sadeghi rounding out the top 10.
Going back from there in the 11th position, Connor Webb is going to finish your first driver 1 lap down in that battle with Michael Farrell there you saw in the closing lap. So just able to hang out there for the 11th position. Justin Knapp in 13th will finish your drivers 1 lap down. All of our drivers back here are at least 10 laps down. Tyler Venanzo from Canada in the Ferrari. Mark Royce from Carolina, the BMW. Kyle Edgar, Sebastian Morfin, Kevin Ayers, and then Don York will round out your 19 car field here this evening from the Ignite JP Alfonso GT3 series. And if you want to learn more about JP Alfonso and his tattoo shop over there in Norcross, Georgia, go to www.jpalfonsostudios.com. You can check out all the recent work and even get a booking for yourself, Joey. And speaking of booking, hoping to book a few of our podium finishers here to get an interview with them, see their thoughts on the race. Don't have anybody ready so far. So we're going to go ahead and take just a few seconds here on Maconi Entertainment. We'll step aside, take a break, get some drivers in here to talk about. On the flip side of things, we'll get a chat here with your podium finishers and then go into the rest of your post-race analysis here on Maconi Entertainment. And we're back here this evening from the Ignite Racing League GT3 series presented by JP Alfonso Studios here on Maconi Entertainment. And it looks like we maybe have one interview here, Joey. I'm not entirely sure who we've got here in the booth here. I believe it's JP Alfonso, but I'm not entirely sure. So we'll see who it is. They'll be standing by with you, Joey.
If I was to guess, this looks like Juan Puig joining us in the booth. You can correct me if I'm wrong, Juan, but congratulations on the race win tonight and that dominating performance in that Ferrari. Take us through the race from your eyes.
Oh, I didn't win. I got 5th.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just figured from the screen name here, it's difficult to tell when people join without their actual names who we're talking to here. This is Juan Salazar that we're talking to in the number 1 car. Why don't you go ahead and tell us about your race?
Wasn't that great. But yeah, Jose and JP and yeah, those guys had a great race. I couldn't stop spinning. So yeah.
Yeah, we actually covered you quite a bit in that Ferrari back there. One thing that I was noticing is maybe your setup seemed to have a little bit of understeer. Was that from a little bit of damage, or did you need a little bit more turn in the front end of that Ferrari?
I was never comfortable with the setup, but that's not an excuse. I just suck at this track. I couldn't keep the car on track. Couldn't get enough grip. Doesn't matter what I did. It was just a tough race, man.
Well, Catalunya can always be a tough place. This is a really technical racetrack in comparison to some of the other stuff, especially at the Daytona Roval, which you guys raced last week. Looking forward towards Monza for the next race, how do you feel about your confidence level going into that racetrack?
Better? I mean, anything's better than Barcelona. That's for sure. I don't race a whole lot here. Monza's fun. High speed, a lot of fast braking. Low downforce. Should be a fun race.
Yeah, should be a fun race indeed. And Juan, before we let you go, did you have anybody that you wanted to give a shout out to or say thank you to that helps get it done on the racetrack for you?
Yeah, so you guys, Maconi Entertainment, thank you. You guys do a great job. Everything looks great. Jose, I'm very impressed with him today. I wish we had a better start and maybe we could have done a little bit more racing at the beginning of the race. JP for putting this together. Donnie for doing the setups for us. Who else? I think that's it.
Awesome. Well, congratulations on that fifth place finish. That's Juan Salazar, the driver of the #1 Ferrari, joining us. And it actually looks like Ian is going to be standing by with our, what is fourth place finisher, Daniel Ott, the driver of that green Audi.
Yeah, Dan, a lot there. A bit of a different strategy here from our different drivers here in your Audi there this evening. Good enough to get you home in fourth position. What were your ideas there with a differing strategy going into this race?
Oh, I saw the leaders take tires. I just wanted to do what they weren't doing. That's about it. So waited until I could make it on fuel to the end before I took tires. Try to get the most out of them.
Gotcha. Yeah, I was kind of curious how because I did know you had the 40% fuel load there, so a little bit different fuel run there. Not exactly sure what a fuel load is there for you guys. And just out of curiosity, I mean, how was it hanging on there at the front of the pack with the leaders? So there was a little bit of aggression there, but they kind of started battling behind you. How much were you expecting that track position to pay off for you?
Oh, I knew I wasn't really racing them for position, but I was at least trying to shake things up a little bit, slow them down, maybe give myself a shot.
Well, a good race for you here, Daniel. Good enough to get you there across in fourth place. Appreciate you taking the time here to talk to us here on Maconi Entertainment. And I don't believe we have anybody else here in our media pen ready to interview right now, Joey. So we'll go ahead and take the time here to just remind you here on Maconi Entertainment that our next broadcast of the JP Alfonso GT3 series is going to be on the 21st. Same time here on Maconi Entertainment. That's going to be from Monza. If you're looking to itch your racing action anytime before that, we also have racing action for you on the 18th. That's going to be the Sim Racers for Mental Health Daytona 6-hour endurance event. That's going to be a fun one for sure, Joey. I don't know if you've signed up for that one or not yet. And then on the 26th, the 2022 Saturday for the Boys charity event. That, of course, is betting the Movember Foundation here. And that's going to be at Daytona. That's going to be your Camping World. And now, I guess, Craftsman Truck Series. That's going to be at Daytona. So that's going to a really good cause. Really awesome anytime that we can work here for the Movember Foundation. But on behalf of all of us here at Maconi Entertainment, Joey Atterbury, Eddie Smith in the production truck, Jeff Maconi, and all of us that helps you get it done here at Maconi Entertainment. We want to thank you for watching our broadcast here of the Ignite Racing League JT3 series presented by JP Alfonso. And we hope you have a great evening here. Thank you for tuning in. Good night.